Idag är vi på CD-dagen i Stockholm med WntResearch VD Nils Brünner. We're taking this interview in English. So Nils, please give us a brief introduction to WntResearch.
So WntResearch is a Swedish biotech company based on an invention by Swedish professor Tommy Andersson from Lund University in Malmö. And it's a biotech company with an aim to combat cancer. But it's not only to combat cancer, but it's to target the most important feature of cancer, that is the spreading of cancer, and that is actually what is killing cancer patients.
Okay, so have I understood it correctly if I say that you're trying to limit the spread of cancer, not trying to cure it?
Of course, we want to cure cancer. So the way I see our first drug candidate here, Foxy5, to be used in the clinic is that it will be given after surgery for primary cancer and then together with the chemotherapy. So we call it adjuvant treatment, and that's something we give just in case that there are some cancer cells left that can spread on in the body afterwards. So we want to hit the cancer cells by two different mechanisms. One is by conventional toxic treatment, chemotherapy for example, and the other one is our Foxy5 that in addition prevents the cancer cells from spreading.
Okay, but companies within the cancer research area are becoming more and more common. Could you give us your take on the competitors, and foremost, who is your primary competitor?
First, regarding how many companies, fortunately there's a lot of companies dealing with cancer because it's an ever-growing problem, and we know now that we will see about 30 to 50% increase in cancer incidence over the next 10 to 15 years due to an increased lifespan. So we need all the companies, whoever that can work in this field. When you talk about competitors, I guess you are talking about this specific area where we are working. There are a number of companies working in anti-metastatic therapy. There's a number of companies working in this specific area, which is called the WNT pathways. But we have, I think, the most specific targeting treatment that if you compare the different companies. Among these companies you have the major players, the big pharma companies also, but they're coming now, want to discuss our approach compared to their own approach, and I think there could be additive or synergistic effect between it.
Okay. You previously stated that you're aiming for a product on the market in 2019. Yeah. What can you tell us about the market as of now? How big is it?
I mean, the anti-cancer market is growing due to these targeted therapies that are very expensive. So an estimate is that it will grow to about $100 billion US. So it's a huge market.
Okay. Very recently you published results from the clinical phase 1 study for Foxy5. Could you please give us the summary for dummies from that study? What was the objective, how long did it take, and how did it turn out?
Yeah, so a phase 1 study in our case was what we call first in man. That means first ever time that we took our Foxy5, our drug candidate, and had it into human beings. And the main objective, primary objective of a phase 1 study is to look for toxicity and safety. This is requirements from the authorities that you cannot just give a drug. You have to, under very strict conditions, test whether it's feasible to give this totally new compound, chemical structure, to a human being. And if we take that first, I think we have been extremely lucky and fortunate that it's a non-toxic drug. And this is especially important here because we're going to combine it with conventional chemotherapeutic drugs that are very toxic. And with these chemotherapeutic drugs, we have kind of the more the better. So we're always at the limit of toxicity. And if it came with another drug that was toxic as well, we could not combine them. So I think this was very, very nice. Secondly, we looked at the pharmacokinetics. That means how does the drug behave in the body, and that looks very nice. Thirdly, we looked for some different biomarkers. That means surrogate things. Can we see that we change other things? Because you also have to remember that in such a phase 1 study, we can only include patients that are very sick. They already have metastatic lesions, so we did not expect to see any disappearance of metastasis because we cannot treat metastatic disease, we can prevent metastatic disease. But again, I think we were very lucky, and sometimes you are lucky, that we actually saw some patients going into a phase with stable disease, so they didn't get further development of their disease, and that was reflected in when we measured the number of circulating tumor cells in the blood. That also turned out to be stable. So I think we got the very best we could get out of such a study. So the patients were scheduled to have 9 treatments, infusions of the drug, but some patients had more than 50 infusions based on the judgment of the physician. They thought that this was to the benefit of the patients, so they just continued. So I think, in conclusion, very, very successful and promising phase 1 study.
Okay, but naturally phase 1 studies aren't the last studies conducted. When could we expect the next one to start? How long will it take, and what will be its objective?
So we decided to learn a little bit more about the drug and these biomarkers to do a phase 1b study that will start within the next 2 months.
Okay, so the last question then. What can you tell us about the near-term future? What is your current focus?
So our focus, of course, is to get the drug to the phase 2 study, where we have patients with no or very limited metastatic disease, only in the regional lymph nodes and so on. And we want to do a randomized study, so we really get a readout. Can we prevent in the real patient situation the spreading of cancer in these patients with limited disease? And I think that is our focus, to get to that point, to make a proof of concept for the efficacy of our drug here. So this is the focus.
Thank you for coming, Nils, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.